Hey, real fans, what a blast we had last week diving into the time traveling madness of Back to the Future. And of course, having my dear friend Clifton join us made it extra special. How about that hysterical segue into the movie sequence that he created just for us, sister?
Oh my gosh. When I heard it, I was like, what is going on here? And I know our real fans may have at first been thinking, what in the world? Because I was. But don't you know that by the time we finished that podcast, everybody got it because they kind of began to learn Clifton's personality.
Absolutely. It was so fun of him to make that for us.
It was so sweet. And it was such a great time. He brought so many fun insights, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But now we are leaving Hill Valley behind and heading somewhere completely different this week. A place with its own set of rules. And let's just say a serious lack of rhythm at first.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Missy. And we have got a special guest to help us break it all down. Someone near and dearest to my heart, who will have plenty to say about this one.
Well, I'd say this special guest and this movie are both two of my faves. So stick around, real fans. You're not going to want to miss this.
I'm Amanda.
And I'm Missy, and this is Real Sisters Rewind.
Join us as we go back to the 80s. Welcome to Real Sisters Rewind, Back to the 80s, a podcast for people who love movies and wish they were as good now as they were back then. If this is your first time joining us, I'm Amanda, and I'm here with my real sister, Missy.
That's right. We're two sisters who absolutely love great movies, especially those from the 80s. We're here to rewatch, relive, and relive again some of our best movie memories.
And if you're enjoying this podcast, we'd love it if you give us a 5-star rating on your podcast app, subscribe, and leave us a review.
And here's the best part. When you leave us a 5-star review, take a screenshot and email it to hello@realsistersrewind.com, and we'll send you one of our Real Sisters stickers as a thank you.
They're so cute. You do not want to miss out. Okay, today's episode has all the elements of a classic. A small town fight against big rules, unforgettable music, and a whole lot of dancing. And to make things even more special, we've got my favorite dancing partner joining us today. Not really, because he doesn't dance anymore, but he used to. My husband, Eric Stevens. Eric, welcome to the show.
We're so glad you're
What's
here.
What's up, ladies? Thanks for the invite. I'm looking forward to having some fun.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Well, before we lace up those dancing shoes, let's rewind to 1984, the year this iconic film hit theaters, and let's take a look at what the world stepped into at this time.
All right, real fans, it was February 17th, 1984, when Footloose first hit theaters. And I have to tell you, Missy, that when Eric and I watched Footloose to rewatch for this,
right,
he really started thinking about 1984, and he told me to the side, I'm sure this is going to come out more, that he believes 1984 might be the best year of the decade, not just for movies, but for multiple reasons. So he's going to probably tell us about a few of those things while we talk today.
Fantastic. I can't wait to hear.
Yeah. Well, this was the film that made Kevin Bacon a household name. Do you remember, y'all, the first time you saw this movie? But wait, before you answer, I do have to back up, because thinking about this being his first big movie that made him a household name, this is the beginning of the Kevin Bacon game.
Yeah, I guess. It may have taken a while for it to come around, though.
It would take a while, but I'm saying this is the beginning of it.
This is the genesis of the Kevin Bacon,
Is it
degrees of
6 degrees?
separation.
I think it's 6 degrees of separation or something. But I mean, think about it. Sarah Jessica. Well, we'll get into it. There's a lot of people
Yeah,
that are
there is.
connected
There
to
is.
this movie. All
Okay,
right. So
so do we remember it, right?
yes. Missy, do you remember? Because I'm thinking you were how old? You were,
I was a sophomore in high school,
so this is perfect for you at
pretty
that time.
new, having my driver's license. I remember Footloose so vividly, going to the movie. Obviously, I've said this before. When I love a movie, I go back to the theater and see it over and over and over again. But, and I know we'll talk about the music from the movie, but I so remember riding around in my silver Cougar, dropping you off at the elementary school, driving to high school, and having Footloose, the soundtrack, blaring on my car radio. And so this movie just holds a dear place in my heart. What about
So
you, Eric?
for
Yeah.
me, this is a movie that I vividly remember going to. Um, and it's kind of funny. I reached out to a couple of people that were with me, and they don't recall it like I do. But we had a 1979 Ford LTD station wagon, baby blue with wood grain paneling. And my mom loaded the neighborhood kids up in that station wagon. We packed it out and we went to the theater and saw this movie.
Wait, was this kind of station wagon that had the seats that like
Would
in the
face
back?
backward?
Yeah.
In the rear, you sat and faced one another and your knees touched. We took many family vacations in that station wagon, and but definitely the trip to see Footloose was something that I certainly remember.
So
You were
you
excited.
went in your station wagon and I cruised over in my silver Cougar loaded up
Yep.
with all my friends. And I'm sure on our way, we did a few circles around the Cloverleaf Mall before and after the movie, probably. What
Cruise
about
in
you,
the
sister?
mall.
What about you?
So this is weird, especially as much as I love this movie. I do not remember when I saw it. I don't think it was in theaters. Maybe it was. I don't remember. I do not remember at all the first time I saw it.
Well, you would have been in like second grade.
But Eric would have been in third or fourth. So but I guess that's
Fourth grade for me.
Oh, he knows. He knows. Eric, did you have one of your girlfriends with you? Eric always had a
Yep.
girlfriend. Yep.
Yep, sure did. I talked to her yesterday too.
But she didn't.
I called her because I wanted to see if she remembered this particular moment. And what's funny is she responded back and said she didn't remember Footloose, but she definitely remembered watching the Von Erich brothers wrestle with me when we were kids.
That's
Oh my
great.
gosh, that's so funny.
Well, like I said, I don't remember. I just know that I've seen it a gazillion times, but I don't remember if it was in the theater or not.
Yeah.
So, real fans, I want you to picture it. It's 1984. And as we have said before, Dynasty was one of the most popular TV shows on TV. So it's fitting that one of the stars, Linda Evans, was on the cover of People magazine the week of February 17th, 1984. And the world was full of big hair, tight rolled jeans, and Walkmans were everywhere. Did either of you have a Walkman?
Of course.
Absolutely. And I also had the padded cassette case for all my tapes that I carried around.
Oh my
With your
gosh,
Walkman?
I totally remember those, and it zipped up and it had a little tab on the end.
Oh, yeah.
Missy, I don't remember you having a Walkman.
Oh, I for sure had a Walkman, but the tight roll jeans,
Oh,
like I can remember tight rolling my jeans and like running late for school because they weren't tight enough, and I had to stop and tight roll my jeans again.
because the tight roll wasn't good enough. I can remember tight rolling my jeans and to the point of where my fingers would hurt, like doing it over and over and being like, my
Yes.
fingers felt like I just can't do it again. It was like blistering my fingers.
Yes.
So the tight roll thing for me, so my next door neighbor was a few years older than me. He was probably a little bit younger than you, Missy, so he wasn't driving his Cougar yet. But he's the one that taught me how to tight roll.
Oh, that's hysterical.
Yeah, I had to teach you.
He also went to Footloose with us.
He was part of the gang
It
in
was
the
the
station wagon.
the Ray Avenue gang.
Yeah. Well, Eric, I bet on your Walkman somewhere in that tape case eventually was the soundtrack from Footloose. Y'all, this soundtrack was incredible. Six songs from that soundtrack hit the Billboard Top 40, and two of them, Footloose by Kenny Loggins and Let's Hear It for the Boy by Denise Williams, they both topped the charts. I mean, come on. Footloose still gets people out of their seats today. Like I was dancing as I was watching this movie.
Oh yeah, for sure. You can't not dance. And Missy, we have the same memory about Let's Hear It for the Boy because you remember dropping me off at elementary school. However, remember how I used to walk, I would ride the bus from the elementary to the high school and wait for you at the gym. And
Yes.
you would pick me up. It was so like that's where my anxiety began because I would be like, is she going to be late? Am I going to be forgotten? And there were all these high schoolers, and I was at the gym waiting, and you would wheel up in the Cougar, often a little late, and you would be blasting Let's Hear It for the Boy.
I loved it so
And it would
much.
be so hot. And it was a two-door, like it was a like I
Right.
had
It was a
two-door.
two-door
And so the
Cougar.
back seat was kind of small, and I would have to get back there in the heat. You're blasting Let's Hear It for the Boy, cruising, and I would have to put on my dance stuff because you would
In
go
the
drop me
back
off
of
at
the
dance.
car,
And I would
yes.
be so hot trying to put those leotards on. And you would just so annoyed with me. And when I hear Let's Hear It for the Boy, that is the immediate memory. Just trying to put my tights on in like 99-degree weather in the
Oh
back of the
my
Cougar.
gosh, your leotard and your pink tights. I
Hmm.
so remember that. I forgot that memory. That is a great one. Such a great one. Well, the movie is full of shenanigans, and I guess we had our own shenanigans, Amanda, in the car. We may have done some arguing there. But there was also a very famous couple in 1984 on the small screen daytime who met at a bar called Shenanigans.
Stop.
Bo and Hope from Days of Our Lives. And I'm sure that Hope was probably singing, Let's Hear It for the Boy or Let's Hear It for the Beau. But what was happening in 1984 is that Hope had been coerced, like she'd been blackmailed by Larry, the attorney, into marrying her. And she didn't want to marry him because she was in love with Beau. And Beau wheeled into their wedding on his motorcycle and kidnapped her. So
Wait, but wasn't Holding Out for a Hero played when they rode away?
probably.
I'm not kidding. I remember that's one of the first Days of Our Lives episodes I remember, and that song I'm almost positive was playing
You
while they were
know
riding that
what?
motorcycle.
I swear, I think you're right.
It
I'm
would
not-
make total sense.
It would make total sense that it would be on there. And I have to say one other thing. After I had done this research, I was just watching TV and a Geico commercial came on, and it was the Geico caveman. And I had just been looking at pictures of Bo Brady back in the 80s when he had his beard and his long hair, and he looks exactly like the Geico caveman.
Bo Brady was fine back in the day.
He was, but if you looked at him now, you'd think, why did I think he was fine? Because he looks like the Geico caveman.
Well, I thought he was fine for sure. And I am so glad to hear this little tidbit because I never knew Bo and Hope met at Shenanigans.
They met at Shenanigans the bar.
Wow.
Absolutely. Okay, one more just kind of piece of pop culture that I found when I was researching. There was a huge commercial at the time, and it's funny because it did become something people would say all the time. Don't squeeze the Charmin. And it's like the woman she's in the grocery store. Do you not remember it, sister?
Uh-uh.
And so she'd be standing there like feeling the toilet paper, and like the grocery store worker would come up and say, ma'am, please don't squeeze the Charmin. And I guess the premise was it was so soft you couldn't walk by it without squeezing the Charmin toilet tissue.
Do you remember that, Eric?
Yep, for sure.
He was shaking his hand.
I don't remember that.
Oh my gosh, it was so funny.
So one of the things from '84, I've listened to some of your podcasts so far, and you don't ever throw in any sports info.
Oh gosh, we surely don't. Well, no, we've talked about the Olympics and breakdancing.
I've heard Olympics, but the breakdancing thing. Ugh. But 1984, something that sticks out for me from '84 was the NBA draft that year. Hakeem Olajuwon, Charles Barkley, John Stockton, and a guy from the University of North Carolina, Michael Jordan, was drafted that year. It was a huge year for the NBA, 1984.
Wow, who knew it? I couldn't have even pronounced some of those names.
Certainly not me.
So, Eric, do you think we need to add a little bit of sports trivia to our rewind?
It just depends on what type of audience you're trying to reach.
Yeah, well, we'll have to think into that.
It also probably depends on the year of what's going on.
But that is, probably a lot of those folks were on the dream team.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's a pretty big deal. Okay, so the runtime for Footloose was 1 hour and 47 minutes, and it came with a PG rating, which was nice because that made it accessible for a wide audience.
For fourth graders like Eric and his friends.
Right.
And his girlfriend down the street. The budget, $8.2 million, which seems pretty modest for a movie, y'all, that ended up raking in over $80 million at the box office. Pretty nice profit there.
Yeah.
The movie stars Kevin Bacon as Ren, and you're going to hear me say it more than once because I like to repeat myself on this podcast.
Yes.
He was adorable. He was so much cuter
absolutely
than
adorable.
I even remember. Like his personality. Oh my gosh, he was adorable. Laurie Singer is Ariel. John Lithgow is Reverend Shaw. Do y'all say Lithgow or Lithgow?
I say Lithgow.
Okay, Lithgow as Reverend Shaw. Again, I felt like he was amazing. I was really impressed with him in this film. And Diane Wiest as Vi, who also I thought was really strong. And of course, Chris Penn, who is Sean Penn's younger brother, is Willard. He was playing opposite of Sarah Jessica Parker, who was Rusty. And did y'all know that Chris Penn passed away in 2006?
I did, only when I was researching it.
Yeah.
But he had a history of heart issues.
Yeah.
And then you combine that with some drug abuse issues, and they found him dead at the age of 40.
Yeah. And it's funny that he's Sean Penn's brother because I wasn't making that connection. And I was like, he looks, I'm trying to place, he looks so like familiar. Somebody. And it's because the brother relationship.
All right, sister, you did not mention another cast character that we just have to pause for a moment and talk about.
Okay,
we have to talk about Ren's mom, Ethel.
Okay.
Played by Frances Lee McLean.
Yes.
Right? Not only do she and I share a birthday, July 28th, not the same year. She's much older than me. But she's been in 3 of our most recent rewinds. Back to the Future. She was Lorraine's mom, so Marty's
grandmother.
When he went back. And she was the mom on Gremlins.
She was on a roll.
Don't you know she thought, I'm right at the cusp of being world famous. You don't even mention her on this.
Well, she didn't have as big of a role in this.
No, and actually this came before Gremlins or Back to the Future.
That's true. She was like, my perm's looking good. Got to keep it tight.
Got to keep it tight,
on track.
Firm. Yeah, absolutely.
Stay
she
on
said,
track.
A supporting actress today, a lead actress tomorrow. Well, Footloose didn't sweep the Oscars, but it actually did earn 2 Academy Award nominations for Best Original Song for both Footloose and Let's Hear It for the Boy. And it showed how the music was just, it was just as much a star as the cast was.
Yeah, I agree. The music was so fantastic. So wait a minute, I have to ask you, nominations, but it didn't win?
Right, it didn't win.
That was a tough year. That was a tough year.
A lot of movies.
Whew.
I know that's another reason 84 is so good. The music, the movies. Eric, you told me something this week about you were like, oh, 84 was Madonna, Prince. You were telling me all the,
Yeah, it was like Michael Jackson, Thriller,
yeah,
Madonna, Prince. I mean, it
Didn't
was
I have
coming
the
out.
crazy.
best? Wasn't I blessed with such fun high school
You
memories?
really were. Your
Music,
high,
movies, pop, culture. Yeah, it really was.
there's no doubt.
Well, so what about this little fun fact about Kevin Bacon? He was originally not the first choice to play Ren.
Woo.
How about this? Tom Cruise, Rob Lowe.
Yeah.
Ladies, how would y'all have felt about that?
I mean, they're
I
great looking, but
actually think it makes sense because both of those stars were really good looking and like, you know, at that
on the
time and
rise, on the
on the
rise.
rise.
Yeah.
And I think they had charisma. I don't know that I could see Rob Lowe as much like with the dancing and stuff. I don't know. But I mean, Kevin Bacon was the way to go. He was
They
He,
his
he
absolute
nailed
best
it.
casting. He nailed it.
you
Yeah.
know, his body language and his like swag. He had this like swagger about
He
him
did.
that was
Yes.
so adorable.
Yeah.
And
So
he
I
could rock a skinny tie.
He could. He could. Oh, and here's a fun fact. Those warehouse dance scenes, they actually had a stunt double for him for some of those flips and tricks. But Kevin, he did a lot of the dancing himself.
yeah, you can tell he's like a bit of a dancer.
Oh, yeah. And he's still, I don't know if you've seen him on Insta lately,
Yes.
but he'll do some cool things on Insta, still dancing, still warming our hearts. And then one other thing, that small town, to get that small town charm, the filming actually took place in Utah, which gave us the perfect backdrop for the fictional town of Beaumont.
Yeah, and it also I saw in my research that that town has changed very, very little, like if at all. Like the
Oh,
school's the same.
really?
Like it's yes, like there's still signs up that are the same. Like it's very, very similar. Hasn't changed
Are
very
they
much
still
at all.
burning books?
Not in Provo, they're not. But we're going to talk about that. Okay, so let's talk about Lori Singer. She
Let's do it.
played Ariel, and I think this is really interesting. Lori was accepted to Juilliard at age 14 and became the youngest graduate of that institution at that time. I don't know if that still stands, but at the time she was the youngest
Wow.
graduate. Hmm.
Well, I
And
knew she was like a professional cello player, but
oh,
I had not read that about Juilliard.
hmm. And so when you think about this, it makes sense. She was cast in the TV show Fame for the first two seasons. And so thinking about her going to Juilliard, it
Yes.
makes sense that she was in Fame. Did either one of y'all watch Fame?
Yes, I loved it. I
That's
loved
a
that
no for
TV
me.
show.
I remember it. I don't remember it well. I must have been really little. Yeah.
I was
Um,
watching What's Happening.
What you
Good
talking about,
times.
boss?
and you know how Willard had that was Chris Penn. He had to learn to dance on the movie, right? Well, he had to actually learn how to dance for his role.
Period. Right.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
actually read, Amanda, that when they were teaching him to dance for the movie, that
Hmm.
they actually wrote that scene into the movie, right? And that
Yes.
that let's hear it for the boy montage when he's learning to dance. It is my favorite part of the movie. And so I'm glad he didn't know how to dance coming into it because we wouldn't have got my favorite part.
I know it's
That
so,
lack of
so cute.
rhythm, the lack of rhythm, and how they showed that was really funny to
It
me.
is. I mean, could you really have that little of rhythm? Like it's hard for me to even imagine. Like I
Not
couldn't
me
even get off
personally.
the beat. I know you've got rhythm. You've got rhythm, brother-in-law.
Oh, y'all, and Sarah Jessica Parker. I read in an interview that she almost didn't take this role because she had previously been playing the role of Annie on Broadway and had to cut her
Yes.
hair short and dye it red. And she had just, after, I'm sure a couple of years, had it grown out and back to its normal color. And they wanted her to have it cut short for this role as well. And she was like, oh, I don't want to do that again. But they ended up telling her she didn't have to do that and she could keep it. And so she got to keep her long, dark hair. And so all was well.
Good job. I thought she was perfectly cast as well.
Yeah, me too.
So one more bit of trivia. There's a town, Elmore City, Oklahoma, and they had a ban on dancing for almost 100 years. It was lifted in 1980. And so that's where the idea for Footloose came from.
Oh my gosh. I missed that. It's wild that the movie was based on a real town. Although growing up in the South, we all probably knew people who didn't believe in dancing, but to have a law and make it illegal is crazy.
Yeah, go
We
ahead.
didn't have a ban on dancing, but my grandmother, we could not throw dice. We showed up with Yahtzee. And her feelings were hurt. Yeah, we were not throwing dice.
Why was that? Because that's considered gambling?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Interesting.
Did she let you dance? Could you dance?
We danced.
Okay, but no dice.
No dice.
We know that there are people with these beliefs, probably some who have the beliefs today, right? That dancing should be outlawed. But all I can say is let's all lace up our sneakers and hit the floor. It is time to get footloose.
All right, real fans, let's kick things off literally with the opening scene of Footloose. These iconic feet dancing to the theme song are so memorable.
I love it. I love it.
Kind of one of my favorite parts.
I know. I didn't really remember it, but then I started watching it and I loved seeing all the different socks with the shoes. And I thought, this is so clever.
And all the leg warmers.
Yes, indeed.
Every time leg warmers would come up, I was like, there's another pair of leg warmers. So many leg warmers.
Yeah, I think I had leg warmers on my Christmas list for Christmas of 83.
Did you wear leg warmers?
I did a few times. They weren't terribly comfortable, but you know what I told you when you were little about fashion?
It hurts to be beautiful.
What an idiot. Eric, do you remember when people would wear the double polos and they'd lift up both of the collars?
Yes, I did that.
So I tried to dress my sister like that, all cool, like in second and third grade. And she'd be dressed in the double polos and she'd be getting out of the Cougar going, up the hill to elementary school. And right as she would get out, I would flip up her collars and she'd get so aggravated at me. And I told her one day, Amanda, it hurts to be beautiful because they were uncomfortable to her.
It would rub under my chin. And I was in like first grade. I was just like, it's bad enough that I'm wearing two shirts. Come on.
I remember an outfit specifically. It was purple. It was a purple polo, a teal polo, and a pair of plaid shorts that had those colors in it.
Oh, I would have thought you were so cute. I loved that style. I really did.
Were your shorts jams?
That was not jams. Those were just plaid
jams.
Shorts.
Were a couple of years later. Jams were a couple of years.
Jams were coming in there too.
Yeah. Okay, y'all. So after we see this incredible opening scene, which also reminds me a little bit of the scene from Breakfast Club when they're dancing on top of the bookshelves, right? Yeah. We're then whisked away to see the picturesque views of a small town. And it's so quaint, but as you're watching it, you just know something is bubbling under the surface.
Yep, and Reverend Moore, they cut to the church, and he has given a passionate sermon.
Shout out here to Harry and the Hendersons.
And Alf.
That's right, John Lithgow is an Alf.
But during the sermon, we figure out that Ariel is the preacher's daughter, and they all notice Ren, who's the new kid in town.
Yes,
yeah,
and
they
Ren
noticed him.
Yeah,
cutie pie in church.
Yes, and he kind of sees them looking his way. So after church, Ren is introduced to the preacher and his wife after the service. He and his mom have moved from Chicago to live with her brother's family. And I have to note here, y'all, again with Chicago, what is it with the 80s films connected to Chicago?
I don't know.
Like
Maybe that
so
was the
many,
place to be then.
I guess so. So many films are connected to Chicago. So many films are connected to Chicago.
But let
Anyway,
me say this real quick, sister. Like at the time, I never connected those dots. Like it wasn't like it was something that you would notice. Like now we notice because we see them
yeah, we're watching
in
them.
sequence,
Yeah.
right? But like it was never like, Mom, I want to go to Chicago on vacation because that's where all the cool kids are. Like it wasn't anything that you really noticed while you were watching. But I guess that was suburbia at the time.
I guess. I mean, we've had Breakfast Club. We know Risky Business.
Right.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off is Chicago. This is connected. There's
There,
Babysitter
you're
Adventures
right.
in Babysitting. Like
There's a
there's just a
lot of
lot.
them, but you
Yeah.
just didn't
Karate
realize
Kid
it at
left
the
Chicago,
time.
didn't he? Didn't the Karate Kid leave
Oh my
Chicago?
gosh, the Karate Kid. I don't know. We'll
Is
see
that
what
one
we
on
do.
our list? It's got to be on
Yes.
our
Oh,
list.
it's
Okay.
definitely on our list. Okay,
I
so
think he was definitely leaving Chicago, headed to California.
has to be. Well, after they get introduced to the preacher and his wife, Ariel, on the other hand, wastes no time heading off with her friends to the High Spot Diner.
Yes. I mean, she's just kind of like, hey, when they're introduced, and she's like, we're heading off to the high spot.
Yeah, too
And
cool.
this is when we see her craziness begin to show, right?
Mm,
This is
mm.
that
She's
wild car
nuts.
stunt. Definitely not something that we tried to create in my high school clan. But this is where Ariel climbs out of the car that she's in with her girlfriends because her boyfriend Chuck has pulled up beside them, and she climbs out and is standing one foot on the car she's in, the other foot in Chuck's truck window, and she's riding down the road, hands in the air between the two vehicles. And we see an 18 wheeler coming, and just in the nick of time, she collapses in his truck.
He
But
pulls her
y'all,
into the truck.
yeah, you're right. He pulls her in, she collapses in. But this girl is cray cray.
Yeah, crazy, like not in a fun way. Like, oh, you're crazy. No, she's like crazy. And
Yeah,
I also
bona
think that
fide.
Eric had to clarify this for me at a later point in the movie. I don't think Chuck is still in high school.
I
He's,
don't think he is either. We don't see him in the cafeteria.
yeah, like he's not there. So that was just a little sidebar. All
Well,
right.
and
Yes, for
so
sure.
something that I noticed in that scene on the truck windows were Chuck's musical interests. He had a
Mm-hmm.
Pink Floyd sticker and he had a
Oh,
Grateful
yeah.
Dead sticker, which to me doesn't align with Chuck's
With Chuck.
style.
Right.
With the rifle rack in the back of the truck and all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
But anyway, so look, the scene, it shoots back to the church and the town's in an uproar. You got people bringing in books they're talking about wanting to burn because they think they're inappropriate. So you really get the sense that, the town has a lot of strictness behind what they believe.
Mm.
But they end up, after Chuck saves her, they end up back at the high spot, and Ariel grabs Chuck's boombox that was resting on the back of his truck window, and she puts it out on the hood. She cranks it up, and it's dancing in the street, dancing in the sheets. And I love the scene. Everybody all over's dancing.
And it's funny because you
people,
see them like just first they'll just barely tap their toe, and then all of a sudden it catches on. They just can't help themselves.
Oh yeah, you got the cooks in the kitchen are dancing. It was a fun scene.
It is a great scene.
But Reverend Moore stops the music.
Wah, wah,
And,
wah.
oh yeah, shuts the party down.
Yeah, he came to give her money and he's just like so embarrassed because he's the one saying, you shouldn't be doing this. And there his daughter is with the boom box getting it going. But the boom box, Eric, I got to go back to this because when I saw this scene together, you said, yeah, I had a boom box like that I used to carry around.
Yep. I had
with
to,
his cassette holder, with his padded cassette holder.
Well, and I would use that boombox and set it up when I got ready to break dance.
Okay.
So, do tell.
Yes, I want so you.
Well, let's just say this.
You actually did break dancing.
If I would have lived in Australia, I would have made that breakdancing team this last summer.
Were you a fan of Breakin' and Breakin' 2? And you corrected
Oh,
me, Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo.
100%.
Never
And
saw them.
what? Oh man, they were great.
So you
Yeah,
actually like got down on the floor and breakdanced?
I definitely gave it my best effort.
Like at school or like where?
I mean, I definitely remember getting grass stains on my back, doing trying to do the back spin and whatnot.
You,
Home and your mom.
I was going to say, you have got to ask your mom if there are any living pictures of you in your breakdance days.
Well,
We've got to
you
see
had
them.
you had the parachute pants, and we had all the bandanas, the bandana
That
craze.
you
I mean,
tie on your legs.
yeah,
Oh my gosh, that's hysterical.
You
we
and Kelly Carter would have been best friends.
look. We had so I mentioned my grandmother earlier. They had a little country store, and she sold bandanas. I remember them being hanging on a line across the corner of the store, and I went in there, and she had fluorescent yellow and fluorescent pink, like tiger stripe bandanas, and we were like, "Can we? Can we?" With like in our goodie bag, we took the bandanas with us.
Did you get one for your girlfriend?
Oh no, the bandanas were for the
You
breaking.
get those for
Those
yourself.
were just for breaking. But I can't leave the breakdancing subject, Eric, without one last important piece of information. Your yearbook. Proof that you actually did breakdance.
What did you get? Like
Well,
world's most likely break dancer? Most
well,
likely to break
you know how
dance?
you would pass the your yearbooks around and share with your friends, and they would write something in
Oh,
there.
sure.
So
Sign in your sign in your
yeah,
annual.
signing. Well, I had one page in my yearbook, and I want to say this would have been my fourth grade yearbook, but it said things I like about Eric, and he can break dance was one of the things that
Was number one.
Oh,
Number
we've
one.
got
He
to
can
get a picture of that.
I need to
things I like
find
Got
that
about
to
Eric.
get a picture
just to
of that.
prove it. Just to
Get your
prove it.
mom to find the yearbook and bring it over for the next time she visits and get a
We
picture
want a
of that.
picture. Eric,
Wanna see it.
was this your girlfriend that wrote that?
Yes, this she also went. She was with me at Footloose.
Amanda, are you
We,
jealous of the girlfriend?
we lived on Ray Avenue, and we had a great neighborhood. But yes,
No, I am not.
You're not
But it's so
jealous.
funny how much his life parallels Kelly. And Kelly was my best
Yeah.
friend, and
Yeah.
now I'm married to him. But anyway,
That's right.
okay, so all right. Moving away from the boombox, back on track with the movie. So the whole thing happened at the High Spot Diner when they were dancing, and the preacher comes and gets upset. So now it's the next day, and Ren makes quite the entrance at school.
First day back to school.
First day back, he is blasting Bang Your Head from his car and rocking a tie. Like he's all dressed like he would be in his Chicago school. And all of this makes him stand out immediately.
Oh, yeah. Everybody's looking. When he drives up, they all turn and he's walking down the hall. And this is when he literally runs into Willard. And it almost makes you think they're about to fight, right? Like because they ran into each other. But they actually strike up a conversation and it's fun. And they are quickly like this, unlikely pair of friends. And it's fun to watch that happen because I immediately thought a fight was going to start between the Chicago boy and the redneck, right? And then, of course, we meet Sarah Jessica Parker as Rusty in the hallway, and she's walking down with her books in hand like we all did in the 80s because we didn't have backpacks back then. And as he's walking down the hall with Willard and she's walking down the hall with Ariel, she just looks at him and she's like, nice tie. And I loved that because I got some Carrie Bradshaw Sex and the City vibes when she
Yeah,
said that, right? She was like, it's fabulous.
she was noticing the fashion. One thing you said, Missy, about the books, you're right. Y'all didn't really use backpacks then. We did when we were in high school. But did you notice that Ariel was carrying her books with like a strap?
A strap. Yes, like something you would have seen of Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah. I was like, what is this? Laura Ingalls? But another thing I wanted to say about Sarah Jessica Parker is that I read that she had a huge crush on Kevin Bacon, and they were staying in this hotel on location. And anytime she was going to the grocery, she would go knock on his hotel door and ask if he needed any groceries whenever she was making a
That's
grocery trip, so she could
hysterical.
interact with him because she had such a
I
big
wonder if
crush. But
they ever dated or had any little type of
I didn't find anything about
romance.
it. I mean, he was adorable, so I
You
don't
know,
blame
that
her.
whole little crew of that time, a lot of them would date each other for little
Hmm.
increments of time. So, yeah, but
Yeah.
I looked too and I didn't see that they did. So,
All right, so let's jump into the lunchroom. This is where Ren and Willard they bond over stories, and Ren's kind of making stories up. He really, I thought this was a pretty funny scene because he just kind of drug it out, and Willard was believing every part of it, and
oh,
it
yeah,
turned
when he
out to
was
not be
like
true.
making up these wild stories about living in
Yeah,
Chicago. Yes.
yeah. But then the girls come over, invite him over to their table, and that's where Ren learns about the big secret. There's dancing's illegal, and it all is because of a tragic car accident blamed on music, liquor, and dancing.
Oh, music, liquor, and dancing. Three evils. Well, I would say from there things escalate pretty quickly for Ren, right? He gets pulled over for blasting his music in his little Beetlebug Herbie car, which I loved. And his uncle warns him to watch his step because the town has a reputation for putting kids on probation for breaking rules, which is so funny. Or
It was
just
like,
you're playing your music too loud.
yeah, he said got some kids, he was like referenced some kids that this happened to. And this is what he said, because I even told Eric it cracked me up. He said they got put on probation from school and church. And I told Eric, they were probably like, yes.
Put me on probation.
Right. Well, meanwhile, we get a deeper look at Ariel's relationship with her father. She's trying to connect with him, but he is definitely more focused on his work. And this scene is where he explains why classical music is okay to listen to and it's uplifting, but dancing, when you're listening to music that's, makes you want to dance, it confuses minds and bodies. And it's such a contrast.
That was hysterical, I thought, when he said that. It
It's very
confuses young
dramatic.
minds and bodies.
So Ren ends up getting a job. He goes to the flour mill, and this is where he also has his first run in with Chuck, Ariel's boyfriend. So Chuck challenges him to a tractor chicken race that back to the "Holding Out for the Hero" song was utilized for this scene, which was really good. But Ren wins it, and only because he tried to bail, but he couldn't because his shoelace was stuck to the tractor pedal, so he couldn't
That
jump.
was great.
Yes, that was great. But it's so funny because Chuck is the one who challenges him, but who shows up at the meal in her red boots? Ariel.
Oh
Ariel.
She's
yeah,
like, "We got a challenge for you,
I love that you reminded us about the red
the
boots
red
because
boots."
her daddy hates those red boots.
And she loves
but
them
what about
with her jeans tucked in those red
It
boots.
reminds me of Maddie
but when she
Westacott,
walked
her red
Yeah.
boots.
when when he asked her why'd he send you, and she turned around and she said, "I volunteered."
I volunteered. That's right. Well, when Ren accidentally wins because he couldn't bail because of that shoelace, this is when Ariel really begins to start noticing him like he beat Chuck and chicken. Maybe I ought to give
Yeah.
him a better look.
Yeah, she seems to like totally ditch her boyfriend after this because he lost the tractor showdown. Again, red flag, crazy vibes.
Yeah. And so after that, like now that she's interested, she sends Rusty to dig up some info on him and she, gets the intel. And then at school, Ren is in trouble again when the school dealer, I guess you would say, tries to give him a joint. And Ren's like, I don't want it. I don't want it. And then they're about to get caught. And so he rushes to the school bathroom and flushes the joint. And they are looking at him now like he's trouble. But I have to ask you both something. The guy who was giving him the joint, obviously somehow is connected with Chuck because later on we see him in the movie. He grabs Ren and holds him down, and we see him a few times paired up with Chuck. So Chuck must have some hold on some of these boys in the school.
So like, so are you like maybe Chuck told him to like do this and plan it on him
Yeah,
or
I
set
don't
him up to get
know.
him in
It's just,
trouble? It's
yeah,
not
I
clear.
guess it's
It's
not
not clear.
clear. And then you also wonder, like, well, did he just see, hey, this cool guy with the cool hair and the skinny tie? I bet he does drugs. I'm gonna give it. I mean, like, this is just kind
He
of
was
one of
given
those scenes where it's just thrown in, and you don't really understand, and you don't really know who the guy is, and I don't know.
What do you think, Eric? You said you sound like
I
you're
mean,
about to say something.
he was giving him a sample. He was giving him a sample. He wanted to get him as a customer.
I was trying to get him hooked on the
Yeah.
weed. Um, yeah, I guess so. But I was thinking the same thing, Missy. I was like, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
Not quite sure about this guy. But I will say this, just my overall thoughts about Ren and Kevin Bacon. So before we did this rewatch, in my mind, Kevin Bacon, from my memory, was like more of a bad kid in the movie. But then when I rewatched it, I was like, oh, he's not a bad kid. He's really sweet and like
Yeah.
nice and like he's a good boy. He's not a bad
He
kid at
really
all.
is. But
Like I
I can
really
see, but you
loved
were
him.
young, right? When you
Hmm.
watched this the first time. And so that was probably in your mind. He's got the little bit of wild hair and he's portrayed as being this wild kid. But you're right. In actuality, he wasn't.
Well, after this whole drug situation happens at school, I guess word gets
Word
back
spreads in a
home.
small town.
Yeah, and so things aren't great at home either. Ren's uncle confronts him about all this trouble he's supposedly causing, and Ren storms off. And when I say storms off, I really mean he peels out in the beetle bug because the little cousin's like, he's taking the car. And this leads to the iconic solo dance scene. Is it in the flour mill or the warehouse? I don't know. I
I
guess we
think
don't
it's in the
know.
flour mill. Because where else would he have gone?
It's like an abandoned warehouse or something. I don't know.
Where
But
where did he get that? Where did he get that bottle of beer from?
right. He's smoking a cig and has a bottle of beer. And I
That's
wondered
why you
that
thought he
too.
was bad when he was young, because he was dancing with a bottle of beer and a cigarette.
Yeah, he pulls up and you can see the stress, y'all. He has got to blow off some steam.
He,
He His uncle is pissed and he can't take this town anymore. It's too much. I mean, living in this town is like a pressure cooker for Ren. And he has somehow got his hands on some smokes and a brewski. And he is turning that bottle up. He is in the warehouse that he gets his tape and he puts his tape in and he is about to blow off some steam. And this is where I found myself wondering, what is actually happening here?
I know. It's like never, 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 never.
What is actually happening? And where did the real, like, set up, not just like a bar in the warehouse, but like a gym bar come from?
Yeah,
That's like,
maybe it was just like a pipe, just a
no,
pipe
no,
in the
no, but it
warehouse.
wasn't because it's like got the things that like tie down into the ground, like the ropes and everything. Like it is a legit gym bar. They
Like
didn't
something
even,
you'd see at a CrossFit gym today or
they
a
didn't even, but they did,
gymnastics place.
yeah, like they didn't even make it look like it was just like a pipe. It was like a legit gym bar in the abandoned warehouse. But this also reminds me, this moment reminds me, I always get a little philosophical, that in the 80s, y'all, we were willing to suspend all reality for entertainment. Like there was
Yes.
no questioning for it. I guarantee you that Eric Stevens is a fourth grader. When he was watching that warehouse scene, he was not like, oh my gosh, what is this guy? He was probably like, yeah, Ren, like thought it was
Do
awesome
those
that he was,
flips.
yeah, he's like dancing in the warehouse. But then I also think that there's this other side of us at that time that we didn't have access to the World Wide Web. So we didn't know really what it
The
was
World
like.
Wide Web or the
What it was
internet.
like, yeah, in other places. So we were just sitting there watching this movie going, wow, this is so cool. This is what it's like to be a teenager, be a rebel on the edge, make the town change the laws. Like we just thought this was what it's like to live like a teenager. We didn't
But
know any
I
better.
was a teenager and I wasn't living like that.
Right, but in your mind, you're like, oh, maybe somewhere else. Like, we didn't
Yeah,
know any better. We're just like,
true,
oh, yeah, this is
true.
cool. Anyway, it was that scene was a lot, but it
Oh,
is
that's
iconic.
what you would call 80s pure gold.
Pure gold,
Love
super,
it.
super iconic.
So as the scene winds down, the dancing scene winds down, music softens, and then you start hearing the slow clap of a spectator, and we realize that Ariel's been watching Ren blow off his steam.
There,
Voyeurism.
yeah, creeper, weird. Well, she approaches him and ends up saying, I want to show you something. And he's like, okay. And so she takes him to this place they call the yearbook, which is really the train tracks. And
Secret junkyard.
or it's near, yeah, it's a secret junkyard. And I guess it's like the train tracks go through there. And it's
Yeah.
this old abandoned train cart. And this is where kids have gone in and taken Sharpie markers and filled the inside with writings of banned books and music and magazines, and poems that they've written. So he's, getting to see all of their writing. That he's impressed with Ariel's poem that she had written on the wall of the train cart.
But then you hear the sound of an approaching train.
Yeah, you did.
And yeah, and so they go down, and she ends up getting on the tracks. So she goes to, this is her second risky move that she's making here in front of a guy. Crazy, just a crazy woman. But she's sitting there and she's watching. She's looking at the train coming. Then she looks back. She makes this look at Ren. Then she looks back, and then she puts up her hand and she screams at the train. And then at the very last second, Ren pushes her off the tracks, and they roll, and they're kind of, laying together there as the train passes by, and she realizes she's
part
crazy.
is really dramatic. Even before she does the whole thing where she stands in front of the train, she's like getting in his face, and she's like, sometimes we come out here, we just scream when the train rides by, like all this craziness. So Eric, at this moment, I think after this has happened and he pushes her off the track and they're laying there, I think at this moment he would be running for the hills. He would be like, this girl's crazy. Missy seems to think that it's like they get a little closer, but as a guy,
I think that guys would be like,
into it.
She's crazy in a good way.
But Eric, don't you think that y'all would be like, this girl's crazy, I'm out?
I mean, I don't know about out, but at least not right away. But she's definitely,
But you would know she was a little crazy.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't, she'd have got hit by that train.
Well, I mean, you can tell he doesn't want to save her, but she's holding out for a hero. So, he knocks her off the track, and you would think he'd be like, girl, are you crazy? You almost killed us both. But it really is actually like all of a sudden the music changes tempo and there's this sweet music. It's like the moment actually bonds them. Like,
I guess
closer.
Like trauma bonding or something.
Oh my gosh, it's so strange. Well, after this special night, Ariel heads home, and things hit a boiling point with her dad. She's late, and he's like, who are you with? And she mentions Ren, and her dad tells her, stay away from that boy. And, then he's like, have you been drinking? No, Daddy, I haven't been drinking. I haven't been smoking. I'm late, right? And it really is this powerful moment when you see how strained their relationship it really is.
Okay, well, now Ren is feeling defeated, just over, he's just feeling suffocated in this small town in Beaumont. And it felt really good to blow off that steam in the warehouse. So he's like, what to do except get everybody together and let's have a dance. So he rallies everybody together for this, and he even makes a deal with Willard that if he's going to have a dance, then Willard's going to have to learn how to dance. And so this scene is just fantastic. And Willard finally finds the beat
He finds that beat. And as I said, this is my favorite scene. I just love
It's
this
so
scene.
cute. It's so cute.
So I want to kind of put a trigger warning out there for any of our real fans about to have a look into, I guess it's not domestic violence because they're not married, but to some hard scenes to look at because things take a harder, darker turn when Chuck shows up at the school and confronts Ariel about her relationship with Ren. And she is not going to take it. It's like she is taking all of her frustration from her daddy out on Chuck. She fights back. It's almost like she's like, bring it on, and stands up to him, and she whacks him. He whacks her. There's Carrie Underwood. I took that. What was that song she sang?
I dug my keys into the side.
Right. Pretty little souped up four-wheel
drive.
Because she grabs a metal pipe out of the back of his truck and is beating up his truck with it. Like there is just chaos and violence right here.
Yeah, I got some Sissy and Bud vibes here from Urban Cowboy. I got that feeling from them.
Definitely.
But as you've heard me say before about the 80s, this was unhinged.
Yeah.
And also uncalled for. I was like, again, this is one of those moments where I'm like, what is happening? Why is she so mad? I mean, I know he said something ugly to her, but I mean, it went off the rails quick. Again, Ariel.
Yeah, she's definitely cray.
Stable.
And then later, they're back down by the yearbook, down by the tracks, and she gives Ren a music box as a thank you for standing up and taking on her father with this dance. And it's there where she's like, asks him if he's ever going to kiss her. And they share a sweet kiss in the weirdest of ways with the music box playing in the background.
Yeah.
And
he's
I have to say, like, go ahead, Amanda, and then I'll say my point.
He's like, oh, like she gives him a music box and he's like, oh, wow.
Eric, would you have been thrilled to get a music box from a girl as a high school boy?
With nothing in it, mind you.
Was there not? I thought there was music playing.
Yes, but there was nothing in the box. I mean, it was just an empty box. It was just weird.
I don't know.
Here's a place to put some forbidden words, maybe. Okay, I have to say,
cigarettes.
Yeah, I have to say something here. She has just been in this huge fight with her boyfriend, Chuck. She's standing there with him, giving him the music box, and it's like Serenity type music playing. And no one in town, not her friends, not Ren, not her parents, are saying anything about the black eye. Like, does she hide from her parents for several days? Is Ren not like getting all that, pent up frustration? Like, I'm going to beat him up too. Like, it's just like, oh, thanks for the music box. And yeah, let's kiss.
No, because he is too busy planning the dance. Yeah, he's got his sights set on the dance, girl.
He's looking past that black eye.
Well, and he tells her. Yeah, and he tells her, he's like, look, girl, this is not for you and your dad. This is for the kids in this town. This is not about me and your dad fighting. Like, he tells her pretty straight.
So this is the part where I guess the town meeting.
Yeah.
Ren had prepped for the town meeting. And one of the things that I liked about this was when Ariel brought him the Bible and had certain passages marked for him. And he was like, this is great. Like
I know.
It was giving him the ammunition that he needed.
Doesn't he ask her, doesn't he say, like, how did you know this? Or like,
how did you know where to find this?
Right. But
can I say one thing there, Eric, though? It's so funny to me because she hands it to him and there's all this stuff stuck in the Bible and he looks at it and it's literally like 2 seconds. He like looks at it 2 seconds. We know how hard it is to read a Bible, right? The small little text. He's like, oh, this is fabulous. And he turns it again. This is great. There's no way he would have had time to see all that in that little moment of a glance. I just had to say that.
Well, so one of my favorite lines in this scene is when he's when he pulls out the Bible, he gets he gets recognized, and so he's able to speak before the town council. And he pulls it out. He says, "And what did David do? What did David do?" Like I remember
Oh
that in the
yeah, because
theater.
he
I
couldn't
remember that
remember
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. But I remember that line making me laugh when I was, way back.
And so,
And then
Eric,
again
what
now,
did David do?
he danced.
He
He sang.
danced. Yeah, he danced. Now, y'all, I don't remember if it was before this scene or after this scene, but at some point in the midst, Amanda, you said things weren't going great at home and in the town, and they were looking at maybe putting him on probation. But someone throws a brick into the window of the uncle's house. The girls are, his small girls who think Ren's so cute. They're crying. It's a hot mess. And the uncle picks up the brick and he says, "Burn in hell." This says "burn in hell." And I have to tell you that little phrase, "burn in hell," this says "burn in hell," became a catchphrase in my high school days. And so,
Really?
oh yeah, we would say it all the time. Like when something would catch you off guard, we'd say "burn in hell." This says "burn in hell," which I've now said 3 times. Please forgive me. But it was a catchphrase between like my group of friends in our teenage days. We would say that.
Oh, that's
And
funny.
then one other thought, the people who are throwing the brick,
Yeah,
it seems like it's maybe part of Chuck's
it
crowd.
is because
But
they're
are they not
against.
wanting the dance? Like,
No,
I don't
because they
understand.
don't. Chuck's crew does not want the dance because they think that Ren is this like sissy city boy and that
Oh,
he's like
okay.
coming in and changing their ways and they're against him. Chuck's crew,
And he
not
probably
the
doesn't want her to be slow dancing with him to be
exactly.
slow
Of course,
dancing with
it boils
Ariel
down to the fact
either.
that Ariel's with them is
Yeah.
what it boils down to.
Yeah.
But
I didn't mean
yes,
to
it was
interrupt
them.
you, Eric. Finish your part, but
No.
I had to say that.
I do want to say one more thing about the little girls because it was their room that the brick got thrown into.
Yeah.
They were so cute because they did when Willard was learning to dance. They were practicing with them too. They were so
They were a really cute bonus to this movie.
they were very cute,
Yeah.
and I was
Yeah.
like, I hope they don't get caught practicing the dance. They're gonna get in trouble.
On
It was
probation.
risky. It was risky, risky business.
Well, you said that he told the town council that David danced. Was it
Oh yeah.
approved, Eric?
Well, and another thing too that was important is this is where one of the somebody stood up and Ariel's mom told her to sit down. Like
Yes.
Yes.
she came through showing that she was wanting these these kids to to
Have a
not
little
have so
fun.
many stringent rules, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Eric, actually, is because the mom at this point, Vi, who's played by Diane Weiss, who I think does a lovely job in this movie. I
She
really
really
do.
does.
She moved me. She was really, really lovely. She had already expressed, like we had already seen that she had some conversations and said some things, and we knew she was leaning towards Ariel's side here
Yeah.
and wanted him to sort of ease up on the kids a
The
little bit.
pastor.
Yeah, sorry. She wanted the pastor to ease up on the kids a little bit. And this was a great moment because this time she was showing it in public that that was how she was feeling. It wasn't just within the walls of their home. So I thought that was really cool.
That was good.
So did they
Pass the ordinance.
pass the ordinance or
No.
whatever?
No, they did not.
Mm.
But the flour mill that Ren worked at was just outside the city limits, and his Ren's boss was a very cool guy, and he let him use the flour mill for the dance.
Mm. I really felt like in this, like I said, this was that whole scene was really powerful. I loved when he was like reading the verses, and this is one of those moments that I was really in it and they thought it was really powerful. Y'all, when he was in front of the council, I even got tears in my eyes. Like I teared up. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, Red. Ariel and her father have a heartfelt moment after the council meeting, and everything's kind of going down. And this is where she admits to him that they talk. They're not fighting, they're having a real conversation. And she admits that she doesn't share all his beliefs, but still believes in him. And again, this is such a sweet, touching scene, and it shows both characters have grown. Um, and I just, I feel like he did such a great job in this movie. I felt like he really was the pastor in this town that was dealing with these emotions that he talks about of the responsibility he felt to keep everyone in the town safe and after what they had gone through with his son.
Yeah,
So,
and I think that's a great segue to a part that we kind of skipped over. That is when the four main characters got in the Beetle Bug and went across the bridge to
yeah,
the dance club. And on their way back on the bridge, we hear what happened in that car accident that banned dancing those years ago, and that Ariel's brother, the preacher's son, was one of the ones killed in that car accident. And now we understand
yeah,
the drive
dysfunction.
for the pastor, the how Ariel is probably trying to get her dad's attention, how the mom is trying to keep everyone happy and keep peace,
Yeah,
because they have been through a lot together,
yes,
this family. And you know, let's face it, when families go through a loss like that, we often see things fall apart.
yeah.
But it brought tears to my eyes too, Amanda. I want to just say also that my husband, Chris Washam, our expert from Raiders, um, he doesn't like this movie. And he and I, we will have words when we talk about Footloose because I love it so much. But Amanda, exactly what you were saying about John Lithgow's character is that Chris feels like they're portraying this man with such good motives as a bad guy. And I
Mm.
think probably there was some of that, but if you watch it and go a little bit deeper in what you're seeing, you
You
understand that
understand why.
he was struggling himself. So there's
Yeah.
a lot going on here.
And I think as an actor, shows it. And you see
Yes.
the struggle between him and his wife with Vi when she comes to visit the church. And another part that I just want to bring up here while we're talking about him, because I think it really showed him in both lights as well. When, remember there was a scene where parents were trying to burn books and he
Right?
came and put a stop to it and was like, no, Satan lives in our hearts. He doesn't live here, which was kind of a little confusing because he doesn't want the music, but still, he was like trying to put a stop to that. And then around that same time was the scene where he was going to the little kid time when they were
Yes.
having the
To like the
cookies and
church preschool or Sunday school
yeah,
or
and
something.
he
Yeah.
was just so cute with the kids and they were so excited to see him and it just showed that this sweet side of him that he really did have the best intentions. He, like you said, he was going through a lot and he wasn't handling it in the best way.
Yeah. Yeah. He's hurt and he's trying to keep other people from having that hurt.
Yes.
It kind of
Yep.
tears me up to say that. So let's move on because it's finally the night. Prom night is here. And
Woohoo!
Ariel's getting dressed in her room. And I just have to say, she's getting all dressed and she's trying to decide which way she wants the straps on her dress to be. And then her mom, Vi, comes in with a corsage that her
Hmm.
daddy wanted her to have.
Yep.
And it cheeses me out a little bit.
Well, also, I was like, isn't the date supposed to bring
I
that? I
know,
don't
like,
know.
daddy wanted you to have this special corsage. And
Um,
anyway, Ren gets there to pick up Ariel.
and can we talk about when she walks out onto the porch when he gets there? Y'all, so Lori Singer actually did some modeling, which makes sense because she's very beautiful. She's tall, slender, all that. But when she's got that hair tight curled and like up in her updo and that chiffon dress,
And a whole lot of makeup.
she looks like she is at least 45, maybe
She
50. I
does.
was like,
Yes.
what in the world? But Ren thinks she is beautiful.
Beautiful. Is that
Beautiful.
you're beautiful. You're so pretty. And so he gets her, he opens the door into his Beetlebug. Eric, when you were dating in high school, did you open the door for your date?
Yeah, but what was funny about the scene to me is when he goes to open the door and he had the door locked. So he had to
Yep.
stop, run around to the other side, unlock the door, and then come
And
back
then
around.
run back
So,
around. I love
yeah,
that. And that's not a problem we'd have in today's world, is it? Because
no.
you'd
Nope.
have the automatic tick, tick, and you'd unlock it, right? Well, they arrive at the dance, but no one's dancing at first. But
It's so
one,
awkward. It's
right?
so
It is.
awkward.
But
Did you see the
once,
guy picking his nose?
oh my gosh, yes, I can't stand that. I was like, that's disgusting. And it wasn't a scratch, it was a pick for all of our Seinfeld fans out
Yeah, he
there.
was up in there.
But everybody's sitting around. It's a little bit like the Back to the Future dance, the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. Nobody's dancing at first until Ren and Ariel hit the floor for the slow dance and the party starts.
And she's
But
like motioning for people to
yeah,
come on the
she's trying to
floor.
get people to come up. But about that time, Willard and Rusty show up. And who else has just driven up? Chuck and his crew. And there's a huge fight. I mean, that Chuck likes to fight, doesn't he? Huge fight, but Ren comes out. Rusty and Ariel are cheering them on. I guess everybody else is just dancing. They're like, we've never been able to do this before. But they win the fight and the night is saved.
So after this fight, and they're victorious, then come back in, and Ren walks in, and a little bit of glitter starts to drop, and then you
Oh,
hear,
yeah.
"Let's dance."
Woo,
And
that's all
the,
it took. His proclamation, right? Let's dance.
and that was fantastic. The ending there with all the dancing was awesome. I loved it. I loved all the different moves. I loved when they mix in a little bit of break dance in there. All the it was fun.
It
The
was
guy,
so
yeah, the guy
good.
did like the robot
The
kind of
robot,
dancing.
yes.
Yeah, and of course there was like almost like a little bit of line dancing where they were doing it, doing the
Yep.
dancing together, and it was so fun. I did wonder how they kept getting that glitter to fall, but
I wondered if
again,
that was like uh CGI, but I don't think so because that didn't come around to the 90s. But I
no,
had the same thought, like it just kept falling and
kept
falling.
on falling. I was like,
Loved
I wonder
it.
who's up there shaking the glitter, but they just kept it going the whole time.
Loved it.
So it was fun suspending that reality.
Yeah, they're dancing. You hear that iconic song Footloose. Like I was up dancing with them. I promise you, I was literally up dancing with them.
Oh, I believe you. And I'm so glad that I watched it with closed captions because I learned some of the lyrics that
Oh,
I
do tell.
had never, well, I didn't know that it said you can fly if you only cut loose.
Oh,
You can fly if you only cut loose. I used to think it was just, I mean, I just would throw random words in there.
yeah,
You
me
can
too.
die, you can sky, you
Yeah,
can
whatever. I do that all
twice.
the time, even still. And my husband loves to correct me when I get the words wrong. And I'm like, would you stop it? I'm just getting my song on. Just leave me alone. Let me put whatever words there I want.
The lyrics don't matter that
So
much.
good.
No, that ending of that movie, you left on a cloud leaving that
Yes.
theater.
You did.
It was a
I mean,
brilliant way to end the movie. You're
And
exactly right,
and
Eric.
we get that shot of Kevin Bacon. That's the last shot is
Yeah.
like it's like his face. It's
Mm.
really good. It's really good. And he was just adorable. Well, um, y'all, this was such an iconic movie. And I don't know if it's because, like you just said, Eric, it leaves you on a cloud, like when it was over. I just keep thinking, this is my favorite one we've rewatched. But I've loved so many of them, but you do just leave with this, you just love it so much. The music, the moves, it is everything we love about the 80s. So now let's talk about if we feel like this movie stands the test of time. We always have this conversation, Eric, at the end, which I know you probably heard in previous episodes.
So what do you think,
Um,
Eric? Does it
does
does
it
it
does
stand
it
up to
hold the same?
today's?
Yeah, to today. Do you feel the same as you did now, as you do now, as you did back then about it?
I I absolutely do. I think so. I liked it then, and I liked rewatching it this time too.
You liked it or you loved it?
I loved it.
That's what I thought.
Sister, what about you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think the way it makes you feel stands the test of time.
Yeah.
I definitely felt just as good watching it and loved it just as much. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. You think about these kids at that time having to go to the yearbook, the secret junkyard, and they wrote all of their thoughts on the walls of whatever it was. You said it was an old train car, but if you compare that to today with social media, they're able to share their thoughts so freely now, and everyone wants to be heard, and everyone is heard, and we all have all these different diverse thoughts. So I just think it's interesting. Was that their TikTok? Was that their Facebook?
In Beaumont?
Yeah, in Beaumont, because obviously it was a place where a lot of people had been and felt strongly about sharing their thoughts and things they had seen and heard. So I don't know. But the movie itself, if we don't get political with this, heck yeah, it stands the test of time. It brought me such joy.
And it made me love Kevin Bacon so much, like all over again.
Yeah, even more.
He
7
so
degrees
I'm just
of
glad.
Kevin Bacon.
I'm glad it wasn't Tom Cruise.
Me too.
Me too. Ren was best portrayed by Kevin Bacon.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I agree. Okay, so real fans, that wraps up our deep dive into Footloose. What a blast it was to revisit this dance-filled classic. And honey, huge thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Eric.
On this wild ride through Beaumont. Your insights. Go ahead.
Well, just whenever y'all do Porky's, I'm ready. I want to be the guest for Porky's.
Oh, Lordy. I don't know if we can do Porky's.
But your insights in Footloose made it even more fun, especially the stories about you being a real breakdancer.
The grass-stained jackets.
It was, yeah.
Did you have fun with us? Did you have fun with us?
Yep, good time. Good. I'm glad it was this movie. This was one of my favorites.
Well, thank you for joining us. And listen, if you're listening and you love this episode, we'd really appreciate it if you could take a moment and leave us a review, share the podcast with a friend, tell people about it, and of course, follow us on social media. You can find all the info in the show notes, and every person you tell helps bring more real fans like you to the podcast and to join in on the fun.
Yes, thank y'all so much. Now, before we sign off, it's time for some clues about our next movie. Eric, listen to these clues and see if you can guess it, but don't say it out loud.
All right. Clue number 1. This comedy takes off with laughs at cruising altitude while giving a hilarious nod to the disaster films of the past.
Clue number 2, there's definitely some turbulence when it comes to the relationships in this story.
And clue number 3, there's a certain inflatable character who steals the show. Any guesses?
Think you know it? Eric
Surely
does.
You can't be serious.
Oh,
Eric.
Tune in next week to see if you are right.
Until then, thanks for joining us on this journey. Keep dancing, keep laughing, and we'll see you all next time. Bye for now.
Love y'all.